said, or for anyone who's just tuning in, my name's Katie. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager for the Schmid College of Science and Technology, and I'll be the host of the session today. We have with us here 5 Schmid students who participate in research as students here at Chapman. So we're going to focus the topics today around being a student researcher. This is going to be a 1-hour session. So it's 6:02 California time right now. We will wrap this up at 7 California time. And the first half of this session, I will ask our students some questions I have prepared relating to their research and getting involved in research here. And then for the entire second half of this session, we'd like to take questions from you guys. So you will just let me check to see if we have our Q&A feature. I think no. I think we'll just use the chat. So throughout this entire panel, even at the beginning, before we've opened it up, you can start putting your questions in the chat, and then we'll get to them in the second half. So any questions you have relating to research, or if you'd like to ask a question of our students that isn't specifically about research, but anything to do with the sciences here at Chapman, they are all wonderful wealth of information about that. So we're looking forward to hearing what you have on your mind and what you want us to answer. Still have some people trickling in. All right. Thanks, Quentin, for kicking us off with questions. I appreciate that. All right, I think, so it's 6:04. I think we can just go ahead and dive in. So again, for anyone who's just tuned in, welcome. This is the Schmid College of Science and Technology Student Research Panel. So we're going to hear tonight from our 5 panelists who are all involved in research as part of their Chapman education outside of the classroom. As I said, I'm Katie, I'm the host. I'm not a student here, and so I'm not the star of the show. I'm going to turn it over to our students. Please introduce yourself in the order you are on my screen is Greta, Annalisa, Bori, Chris, and Olivia. So if you could each just tell everybody where you're from, your major, and any other kinds of involvement in general that you have here at Chapman.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Greta. I am a junior biology major. I'm minoring in the creative and cultural industries. And I have my research with our paleontology lab on campus. So I'm part of our dino lab, which is super fun. I love to dig up bones. Also, campus life, I'm involved in SSLC, which stands for the Schmid Student Leadership Council. And that is basically where we get to talk to the dean gets to talk to us, we can voice our concerns, work things out, we plan events, all that jazz, which is super fun. I'm also part of a couple theater clubs as well, so I like to dabble in that. And then I also dabble in Dodge sometimes, which is our film school.
Hi, I'm Annalisa. I'm the junior class of 2026. I'm a psychology major and then also a political science major. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Theta, a sorority here on campus. I'm vice president of Chapman's chapter of Orange County Association of Environmental Professionals. I'm a research assistant in the psychology school's computational analysis of health behavior lab. And then in my free time, I volunteer at a plastic pollution nonprofit where I get to take high schoolers on field trips and teach them about the environment.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bori. I am a senior biology major. I'm actually graduating this semester. I'm a chemistry minor as well, and I'm from Puyallup, Washington. I'm also a transfer student, so if you have any questions about that, I can definitely answer them in the second half. I I do research in the Tomian lab for plant molecular biology, and I work with medicinal herbs mainly. And some of the things that I'm involved in on campus, I'm the president of Mo Harmony, which is an all tenor-based a cappella group. I'm the secretary of ASBMB, which is the biochemistry club. I'm a supplemental instruction leader for organic chemistry, which is a student who has taken the course and can help students through a notoriously difficult course. I'm a student scholar ambassador for the Center of Undergraduate Excellence, so I basically help students explore the kind of opportunities they have in their undergraduate years. And I was an orientation leader for this fall semester.
Hi guys, I'm Chris. I am a sophomore physics major, and I'm trying to add a math major as well. I do research with the physics department in the Howell Research Lab. Um, I am originally from LA, so not too far from here. Um, some things I do not related to research are I am the events coordinator of the physics club. And I was in the Chapman Jazz Combo last semester. I couldn't this semester because of a class conflict.
And I'm Olivia Gayette. I will be graduating in 2026, and I'm a chemistry major with a self-declared materials chemistry minor. And so it's sort of supposed to be like chemical engineering. I currently do research with Dr. LaRue in his cat lab, specifically photochemistry. So essentially, we're making bimetallic core shell nanoparticles that can act as an alternative to like fossil fuels. And outside of research, I am a member of ACS.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all again for being here. I appreciate those introductions. I'm going to start us with a very general question. You've all just introduced a little bit about what lab you do research in, but if you could all just elaborate on that and tell us a bit more about the focus of the research that you're doing in your lab. And we can just go in that same order again.
Yeah, so I actually didn't start out in a dino lab. I started out in Dr. Gleinberg's lab, researching kind of neuronal development and how stress can affect the brain and how we can relate that to Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So I did that for a semester, and I realized that I really do enjoy research, but I realized that I wanted more like material research. I wanted to get my hands on things, and so I kind of just came upon the dino lab on campus because I had an archaeology internship for a year through Cooper Labs, and I got introduced to a lot of people in that way. And they have a paleontology department. And so I kind of weaseled my way into the dino lab, being like, hey, I work at Cooper Labs. Like, let me join, please. And so they let me in. And so I volunteered for the first year. And so that was just me. And I didn't get it for credits or anything. And after that, I got invited out to do field work out in Montana. So I got to go out to the field, find the dinos myself, and kind of dig up the bones and all the science and data collection that comes with that. And after that, I kind of got to see the full process from start to finish of you find the bone in the field, you discover the fossil, you take it back, you completely prepare it, and you send it off to a museum to be either studied or displayed. And so I got the full range of what it takes to be in paleontology in that aspect. And so then I kind of got promoted to lab manager there. And so now I am lab manager at the Dino Lab. And so on the daily basis, I go into the lab and I usually work on any fossil that needs my attention. So a lot of fossils, they come in kind of these weird cast looking things and they're covered with dirt and stuff for protection because we don't want to actually dig them up in the field, weirdly enough. We want to like preserve as much as we can. And so there's a lot of uncovering the bones in the lab. And I also have some volunteers that come in. And so I get to show them the ropes, show them how to do things. And so we have a lot of people that just kind of want to come in and be like, I want to dig up a dinosaur bone. And so I oversee that aspect as well. And then I also do cataloging. And so there's a lot of bones in the lab. So that means a lot of cataloging. I got to keep track of everything. And so I have kind of that aspect as well. So I do the curation, I do the preparation, and I do a lot of just like paper and work behind the scenes in that regard with Dr. Jack Horner, who was the advisor for the technical advisor for the Jurassic films. And so he's a pretty cool guy. And so he's got a lot of stories to tell. And so we usually will go to either like public events as well to inform the public about dinosaurs and how to dig them up and how being a woman has not stopped me from being in a male dominated field. So yeah.
Okay. I started in a similar way in a different lab, in the computational analysis of health behavior lab in my home school, Green College of Health and Behavioral Sciences. I'm still active in that lab, but I've taken a transition to become engaged in Schmid's socio-ecological climate adaptation and resilience lab, where we focus on all types of natural sciences and social sciences work. So I've had the awesome opportunity to work on a whole range of projects, some of that being looking at environmental justice issues such as equitable access to beaches in California, communicating extreme weather events like climate change to the general public in informal education settings. But the project I'm most proud of is my own project, which examines climate anxiety and burnout among environmental scientists. I've been able to take this project from start and working through the finish, of developing the research questions, attaining IRB approval, developing my survey methods, interviews, and so currently I'm in the period of data collection right now, where I am conducting qualitative interviews to understand these scientists' experiences better, of how they relate emotionally to climate change.
So my time in undergraduate research has been throughout a plant lab. So the plant lab that I was in, I started in February of 2023, and it's plant everything, plant molecular biology, plant proteins, which is technically molecular biology, but anyways, I really it's not really for everyone, but what I realized was that I didn't really like the hands-on, me and dirt didn't really mix like that. So then I transitioned more to the molecular biology side and I really loved it. And now what I'm going forward with now is working on this medicinal herb called Borago officinalis or borag. Borag, it is a medicinal herb that is native to the Mediterranean region and it has the richest plant source of gamma linoleic acid or GLA. GLA is a compound that helps relieve the symptoms of inflammatory diseases. So that's why I wanted to study this plant was because I am pre-med and I really wanted my research to really connect, my love for plants, but as well as my love for medicine. So I moved forward with this project and I exposed this plant to drought to see how this plant changes on the molecular level when exposed to drought. So we extracted the RNA and the metabolites, which refers to the transcriptomics and the metabolomics. And what I found from there was that there was an upregulation of PC and PE metabolites via the Kennedy pathway. And those two metabolites actually influence the integrity and the flexibility of the cell membrane or the phospholipid bilayer. And what we found was there are actually genes in the Kennedy pathway that contributed to the synthesis of PC and PE. So it was really cool to see the RNA and the metabolites working together. And it's also really cool that I get to do something like this in my years in undergrad because I am in the process of publishing this paper now. So, yeah.
So I got my start in the lab that I'm in now, actually. I'm in the Howell Research Lab with Professor Howell, and we're working on making a hyperspectral camera, specifically a accessible and affordable version of one. Um, Basically what we're doing is we're using everyday electronics components and a credit card sized computer called a Raspberry Pi to make a camera that can see in more colors than any human can. So yeah, using the Raspberry Pi, which we code, and the Pi camera, we code LEDs and filter. We code it to work with LEDs and filters in order to like flash objects with specific colors that are useful frequencies to see the molecular makeup of those objects and read back the brightness of the reflectance of those objects based on a piece of Teflon as our reference frame. Um, yeah, so I started as a freshman and it's been a great experience so far. you really learn a lot in a research lab, and I get very hands-on experience. So I kind of came in with almost zero knowledge about optics or quantum mechanics, and I really have learned so much in the process of working with all of the materials we've been working with. I also got the chance to go to a conference in South Africa very recently. I just got back about a week ago, and present on the work that we've done and how anyone can make and use these cameras. Um, yeah, it was a great experience. We got to go there, present, and then afterward they had a cheetah exhibit. We got to pet cheetahs and do a bunch of fun stuff there. Plus, we got to meet all the professors and do and see what higher level research is like. So yeah.
Okay, and finally, so I again work for Dr. LaRue under his cat lab. Last year as a sophomore, I decided halfway through fall semester that I wanted to change my like career path within chemistry, and I wanted to do chemical engineering, as I mentioned earlier. And so, Dr. LaRue is the chemistry advisor, and so I briefly met with him in a state of panic because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And he pretty much offered his research to me. Dr. LaRue has three different research project that he does, and they're all a tiny bit different. And so he pretty much asked me if I'd be interested in the photochemistry, because it's technically physical chemistry, which falls a little bit more into obviously physics, but there is some aspects of it that kind of takes in more of a chemical engineering side. And so I joined in the early spring of last year, so my sophomore year, just because of interest essentially. But as I kind of mentioned earlier, we're exploring the potential of gold core bimetallic nanoparticles to enhance photocatalytic performance. These nanoparticles are composed of gold. We have another side that does titanium nitride, but I specifically work with gold as the core. And then we take other metals such as ruthenium or rhodium or nickel, and we lay it on the outside as a shell. So there's your bimetallic or shell nanoparticle. Essentially, when these nanoparticles are energized by light, so in our instance, we have a laser that we shoot them with, they're able to convert carbon monoxide that's sitting on the surface of the nanoparticle into carbon dioxide. Um, and so, as I kind of mentioned earlier, it's definitely a promising thing of being an alternative to fossil fuel. We're hoping to investigate hydrogenation for biomass to fuel conversion, which is kind of like the next step of what we're already doing. And this will kind of push us in the more like sustainable fuel area than we already are standing at. But overall, when I first started, it was definitely hard to grasp because physical chemistry is one of the last classes that is offered or taken usually for chem majors, and I think it might be for biochem for an elective, but it's like a 400 level class. And going in as a sophomore who was just taking organic chemistry, it was definitely a big challenge at first to understand the quantum chemistry behind a lot of this stuff, but with the help of my peers, I have come to grasp the knowledge, and it's very interesting. So I really enjoy it.
Great. Well, thank you all for that, the overviews. My next question, I feel like Greta and Olivia, you've both kind of addressed this, but I'd like to hear from the others as well about the actual process of getting involved and making that first step. I think a lot of students know that they're interested in doing research, but it can seem like a daunting and confusing thing to get involved with. So I'd love to hear exactly how you went from maybe being interested in research to being inside of a lab. So Annalisa, Boria, and Chris, if you could each tell us a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Absolutely. I think a lot of us, when we go to college, we have these big questions that we want to ask or answers that we want to find out. And when I was a freshman, I had a Google Doc open of all the research questions I wanted to tackle. I've so far made it through one of them, so it is a slow process. But I had a professor for 3 semesters in a row. And I ended up having really good discussions with him about topics that I was interested in, and he advised me to go and have a conversation with another professor in his department. And then that professor turned out to be my current mentor. She took me into her lab. And one thing I think that's really unique in my lab is I was given complete creative freedom with what I wanted to do. It's very traditional for an undergraduate to be put on to an existing project. But I went into this and told her, I have this question I want to ask. I believe it applies in the real world in very important ways. And she was like, okay, you can go figure it out. I will support you with what you need, but like you're holding the reins on this. And so that's how I got involved.
I think something pretty cool that Chapman has is the Center of Undergraduate Excellence. So that's an office that I work for, and one of our duties is to help students find what they're really passionate about and help them get involved in research. So what Chapman has is a faculty directory full of faculty mentors who are actively looking for students to join their research labs. And it's pretty thorough. It has the amount of students that they are looking for and the qualifications, which most of the time is going to be either little to no experience or a lot of enthusiasm. And so when I first was interested in research, I just looked through that directory and I picked out maybe like 5 projects that I could see myself working in through the next couple of years that I was at Chapman, because that was one of the most important parts to me, was that if I was going to join a research lab, I have to actually like enjoy it. And that's what a lot of students at Chapman do. It's always going to be trial and error with finding out what you really want to do. So when I found these 5 projects, I reached out to the professors, and I remembered that cold emailing isn't going to hurt anybody. So that's what I did. And I heard back from all of them actually. And what I did, like a few of them just came to the conclusion that they weren't looking for any more students. But then I met with a few of them as well. And we basically just talked about to see if this research was going to be for me. And in the end, I ended up choosing to work with plants because I felt like that was the right path for me. And the professors really helped me find that. So,
So the way I got into research is a little non-traditional, it seems. The nice thing about the Chapman Physics Department is that it's really small. So you get to know everybody in the department. Um, Case in point, the professors invited us to their annual Christmas party last year. And I spent a whole hour trying to get ready for it, trying to figure out what business casual meant. And when I got there, everyone was super nice and super open. And one of the professors actually came up to all the students there and asked if anyone wanted or was interested in the research that he was doing. That was Professor Howell. And from there, I emailed follow-up email and I told him I was really interested in it, and things have worked out really well since then. Um, I know other students, the physics department is really, really accessible. So many of the other students have in the physics department have just gone and emailed professors. Like Bori said, just cold emailing never hurts anybody. And if you get to know the professor, they'll tell you about their labs, and or you can even just uh, look them up online and see what what their labs are known for doing. And if you just cold email them, most of the time they'll follow up with you and at least spark a conversation about it. And most of the time that'll lead to a research opportunity.
All right. Let's see. I think I'll ask you one more of my own question, and then we'll turn it over to everybody tuning in. I'd like to know, let's see, I'm trying to think what I should ask next. I guess I'd like to know just what you think is the best thing about doing research, or if someone were asking you whether they should get involved with research in college, what would be your number one kind of pitch of why someone should do this?
Yeah, I would say it's a great opportunity that will not harm you at all. Like, there's no downside to doing research, I would say. It can only benefit you. And once you find something that you're interested, you kind of sink your teeth in it. And I think Chapman's special in the sense that, like, I joined a lab and I was like, oh, well, I do enjoy genetics and I do enjoy like doing all of these different experiments and stuff, but I don't think that this is a fit for me. And they only encouraged me from there. Dr. Glanberg was like, I'm so happy that you are figuring out what you want to do, and I will 100% support you in like going to a different lab. And that's exactly what happened. I then immediately transferred over into Dr. Fudge's lab, which I haven't talked about yet. That's a hagfish lab. And so they kind of look like eels and they have this crazy defense mechanism that they release slime. And so we're studying the slime in that. And I was doing a little bit of histology on hagfish and lamprey as well. And I once again was like, I don't know, because at the time I was also doing the dino lab. So I was balancing 2 research labs and my schoolwork, which was getting a little too many things to juggle at once. And so once again, I was like, I feel like I can't do both, and I want to commit to my dinosaur lab and want to kind of pursue that path. And he was only kind about it. Dr. Fudge was absolutely fantastic. I still have a research position with him if I want to return, which is super nice. And so they keep it open like that. And I would say it's such a fantastic opportunity to learn, and I feel like we're here to learn, so, like, take advantage of those opportunities, and if you don't like it, like, you can just switch out of it, and I've only found, like, a great community to bond with, and I love sharing my information that I now know with others, and so if you ever meet me on the street, I'll probably give you a dinosaur fact or something before we walk away. And so it's just a really great way to connect with your peers, get involved on campus, have something for your resume. It really is only beneficial, and I would strongly encourage everyone to do research if they can.
For me, research has been great, to do all the things like building hard skills and putting something concrete on my resume. But I really think the most important thing that it's done for me, has been building my ability to learn completely on my own and really figure out things and tackle problems very independently. Um, in a way that I don't know if when I was coming into college I felt as comfortable with. And especially taking on my own project, that no one else in my lab really has any connection to, was a bit intimidating at first, but the more I've done it, the more comfortable I've gotten with my knowledge and my ability to learn in the future.
I think for me, coming from a pre-med perspective, I did come into Chapman as pre-med, and while I still am, research has strengthened me to really be more passionate about that in the weirdest way. Just because when a lot of students come in as pre-med, you don't really know any of the opportunities that are any other opportunities that are really out there. So for my mindset, I really had to change that. I really had to explore what else was out there. And I am really, really grateful for my experience in research because it has shown me that while I probably won't pursue a career in research, that undergraduate experience has helped me come to that conclusion and made me feel more content with my decision to apply to medical school.
For me, it's hard to pick what the best thing about doing research is. I'd say it's between two things. First, the opportunities are wonderful. Like I said, I got to go to a conference as a sophomore, which my physics professor tells me is kind of crazy. Um, and I get to meet so many great people in the lab and get to know my professors and my fellow physics major students better. But really what I think is the best part, kind of echoing what others have said, is the amount of learning you get to do. Again, I came in with very little knowledge on optics. So even just being in the lab, I've got to learn very basic principles of optics and even some more complicated stuff too. I got to really get good at coding, especially with Python, which is super helpful, super useful and everything. I learned how to research a little bit, like how to find factual stuff online and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd really say learning is the best part about research.
I think for me, I agree with everyone that has already spoken, but for me, it's definitely the people that I have in my research group. I knew a lot of people that were in my grade just through different classes, and obviously I've met some seniors, some sophomores through different classes because some gen eds or whatever have a mix of grades. But overall, like my main circle and a lot of the people that I associated myself with were juniors, as I'm a junior right now. And so I think definitely what I took away from it the most is that I've been able to meet people of different grades and through them also meet more people of their grades. And some of the people of my research group have become like some of my favorite people and people that I love to surround myself with. There's days that we don't even have anything to do for research, and yet me and my research friends are like meeting up to hang out or going into the lab and organizing things in the lab just to spend time together. And we just got a new freshman in the last few weeks, so that's exciting to be able to, learn more about her and kind of be able to guide her. It's a great way to be a mentor, but also be mentored by those above me. So overall, it's definitely helped me in the social aspect, get to know more people, and also just like create better friendships and have close friends that have the same goals and kind of same perspectives that I do.
Wonderful. I think those are all really good pitches. I feel like everybody tuning in is hopefully now convinced that research will be a really wonderful component to their college experience. And as I hope you can all tell, it's really easy and encouraged to get involved with it, and even try out multiple different labs here. There are not a lot of barriers in your way. Our faculty really want to support you and they want you in their labs. So it's a really wonderful part of the Chapman experience that you'll have here. We're at the halfway point. We're over the halfway point. So now I'm going to switch over to the questions that you all have. I'm going to start with Jackie and Tracy's question about grad school. Bori has mentioned that he is pre-med. Are any others of you thinking about a grad school path or a career in a lab? Anyone can take that who'd like to share.
I am anticipating applying to PhD programs next year, my senior year. And I'm looking to go into either a health psychology with an emphasis in climate change work, PhD, or an environmental studies with an emphasis on social sciences.
I will also probably be going to grad school. I will either be going into museum studies, so kind of curation, preparation of fossils and all of that jazz, or I'll be going the paleontology route, or still on the board, genetic counseling. So I'm a little everywhere. I still have to narrow that down, but yeah, I will definitely be pursuing a graduate program.
I'm actually also considering a graduate program. I'm still pretty early in my college career, so I don't have everything figured out, but I do know that physicists often have to go to grad school in order to really get good jobs in the field. So yeah, I think I'm planning on going to grad school either for engineering, because that's kind of what I'm most interested in, or continuing with physics, if it happens to be more exciting.
I as well am also planning to go to master's, hoping to do chemical engineering. Unfortunately, my minor is materials engineering, which is quite not exact what I'm wanting to do, but with the help of Dr. Lyon, who's one of the professors in the engineering building, he's kind of been leading me and will be leading me in the next year or so to help me apply for certain programs through some of the schools here in California to do chemical engineering. So,
Okay, great. Well, sounds like quite a lot of grad school plans and interest on this panel. We have two very similar questions right after that from Valerie and Aparna about external organizations, and is all of the research opportunity happening on campus, or are there also research opportunities to be found off of campus? If anybody has had experience with research internships or knows somebody else who has, I would love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I did an internship starting my freshman year, spring semester. And so I interned at Cooper Labs in archaeology, which is weird because I'm a biology major, but I was like, why not? Archaeology sounds fun. And so I applied there and I thankfully got in. And so I did a whole year there and it was such a blast. I loved it so much. And it's kind of what kickstarted all of the paleontology stuff. And so when I go out and do field work, it actually isn't through Chapman University, it's through Oklahoma State University as well. So in that regard, yes, we have a Chapman lab. But when I go out to the field, it's not technically a Chapman sanctioned like research. It is through Oklahoma State University. And so like my higher ups are Dr. Holly Ballard. And so she is an absolutely fantastic paleontologist over there at Oklahoma State. And so I work through them, and then any of the fossils actually go to the university in Seattle, Washington. And so all the bones that I work with are actually going to end up in the Burke Museum in Seattle. So Chapman's kind of like a very middle ground for different universities and organizations. And so I work with the people at the Burke Museum to catalog our fossils correctly so that they can have an easy time kind of transferring everything over. I work with Oklahoma State University, just so we can have that constant communication. When's the field dates? How many people I need to bring out, because I'm kind of in charge of that now, where I have to find people to bring out to the field. And then also Cooper Labs, we have a couple fossils stored there. And so I work directly with them. And I also go to a lot of events run by the Orange County Parks, which is Cooper Labs' like overall organization. And so I do a lot of kind of community things there as well, involving archaeology booths. And then I also give public talks about dinosaurs and my experience and how I got involved and all that jazz. So yeah, it's definitely Chapman has research and opportunities, and I've taken advantage of it, but there's a lot outside that you can definitely go for.
I'll add, we have an example video I'm gonna drop in the chat. This summer we had a student do like a day in the life video talking through her internship, which was a research internship at Vanderbilt. So you can check out that video, and I'll also take a moment to plug our Instagram. If you are interested in Chapman and interested in studying the sciences at Chapman, give us a follow. We post a ton of student spotlights and examples of the kinds of things that you could be involved with when you come here as a student. I've also got a blog article about that same student. I'm going to just drop in the chat here. Okay, on to some more questions. We have a couple specific areas of interest. So Elise asked about marine sciences and Lori asked about genetics. I know that Greta mentioned the hagfish research. Dr. Fudge is like one of the top individuals in the world studying hagfish. He's really, really well known. I believe that Dr. Wright also studies marine biology. Is that right?
Dr. Wright runs the Marine Invertebrate Lab, and they have all types of invertebrates there. I took care of one of his sea slugs last summer, or earlier this semester in Aplasia.
Cool. We have a YouTube video about Dr. Wright from many years ago, but I'm going to drop that in the chat as well for the person who is interested in marine.
My
Um,
lab also does a lot of different marine sciences. I spent my whole summer doing plankton tows, water quality testing. We also look at sea hair physiology, which if you're interested in marine science, you might know how essential eelgrass beds are to habitat health. And so we were looking at the factors that make different types of sea slugs, like Phytoplagia telluri or nudibranchs, which many of you might be familiar with, how they adapt to climate change, especially with their unique habitat in the intertidal zone.
I can briefly touch on Dr. Wright's research because one of my friends is in his lab. Um, there is one project that's happening where they're taking a bunch of hermit crabs and they are monitoring behavior versus like regular water and predatory water. So they have a predator in a tank in the back, which is just like a mammoth crab. And so that is the predator water. So it has the predator scent. And they monitor the behavior of the hermit crabs and how their feeding can change based on what water they're in and if they can sense that there is a predator present or not. So that's just like a little bit of other marine research.
and does anyone know about genetics research happening in the college? I assume so, but I don't have a
I
name.
do genetic. We crossbreed plants all the time in the genetics portion of the plant lab. And actually, one of the really cool things that we did was like we have tons of hybrids in the lab. So we crossed two hybrids together. And at the very end of it, we only got one seed. And I can't remember. The lab made a name for it. It might have been like Tracy or something, but this one seed, we took care of it for about a year, and now this hybrid is fully grown and we can now cross other hybrids with this plant. So
Awesome. Let's see. I just saw that Parul sent in a question about health sciences, and neuroscience. So if any students can speak to that, feel free. Go ahead, Annalisa.
Yes. My main school that I'm in is the Crean College of Health and Behavioral Sciences. You can get a BS in health sciences, and then the other awesome thing that Crean offers is a minor in neuroscience. So you take coursework on that. It's something you would apply to in your sophomore year. But honestly, I think one of the best things that we have is, when I say world renowned, I mean it's like actually world renowned. It's pretty cool. The Brain Institute here, right now they're studying free will, consciousness, cognition, and you actually get to use a lot of the equipment as a student researcher, and you get to look at people's brains.
Nice. Yes, thanks for clarifying about the colleges, Annalisa. I just also added in the chat that there's an info session for Crean College, which is the Health Sciences College, next week. So you could dive into those topics more if you attend that session next week. I'd like to return to one of the first questions that was asked about kind of work-life balance, student research balance. So Jackie and Tracy asked, do you find it hard to find the time to do your research during the school year with your course load? Are there research opportunities in the summer so that you can sort of separate those? So a few of you could just speak to that sort of time management balance element of being part of a research lab.
Yeah, so I actually over the summer I started doing the main portion of our research, which was really developing and getting the code working for our camera. So I drove in every day. I drove from San Diego because I was a little eager, but yeah, every day during the summer I would come in and just work on the code and other aspects and run some tests as well. And I worked with another PhD student at Chapman right now, and it was great just working with him every day and doing stuff like that. Uh, During the school year, I go in about 2 hours every day to the lab. It's not at all difficult to keep that in into my schedule. I do have a bit of a lighter schedule, but you don't have to work that many hours in the week either. I know some of my other fellow researchers in this lab go in like maybe 3 hours a week and they still get plenty done and learn a ton. So yeah.
I will say it is manageable for the most part. I'm taking 18 credits this semester, which is definitely a lot. But I still clock in about 10 hours a week, roughly, sometimes a little bit more. And that just depends on what we're doing. Sometimes we're in the lab synthesizing something. Sometimes we're in a different lab centrifuging something. Sometimes we're in a different room using an instrument. So it kind of depends. Some things take longer than others. Um, I did also I was under the Stafford Fletcher Jones Fellowship this last summer, which was under Chapman. And definitely that was a lot more time. We were clocking in 30 hours a week. So after having that experience, to me, it seems like I'm not getting a lot of time in compared to that. But every week when we have our weekly like project meeting updates, we usually still will have some form of update, and we're slowly but surely making progress. And I know some of us also we have like an interterm session here at Chapman, where some people do take classes. And I know a few of my research members will be doing credit for research instead, just because there's some synthesis that we have to do that takes up to like 8 hours for the full process. And so unfortunately during the semester, right now, we're not able to do those specific ones because nobody has 8 hours in their day to sit in the lab and make sure that the process fully happens. But I would definitely say it is manageable, especially taking a lot of classes. And sometimes it's a little break from your actual classes. You can kind of like take your brain cap off and kind of just think about whatever you're doing in the lab and you don't have to worry about other things.
Yeah, I'll lightly touch on SURF, which stands for the Summer Undergraduate Research Fellowship, which happens obviously in the summer. It is an 8-week-long program. You get a stipend of $3,000 and free on-campus housing. And so you basically get to conduct your own research under professors. And at the end of that 8 weeks, you get to present your own research at a student symposium where you, along with your fellow peers, get to present your research, get some more of that under your belt as well. And that can lead into the semesters, and so you have that experience in the summertime. And so you just have to apply to it. A lot of my friends did it this summer and they've only said good things about it. I haven't done it myself, but I know that it is really fantastic. And yeah, and in the summer, I do my field work in the summer. So I can't go out to Montana in the winter, unfortunately, because it's a little snowy to dig dinosaurs up. And so I do the bulk of my field work in the summertime. And so I'm out there for roughly a month. And we basically just camp in the field and we have 9-hour days of just being in the field, collecting data, digging stuff up. So I would say summertime is honestly when I'm probably most active with my research. And then school is when I can kind of take a chill pill, like relax a little bit and just kind of focus on my schoolwork, but still have that research to fall back on. And that is kind of what I take my brain cap off and I just kind of do my research.
I'd like to add on to that. I really think research here is what you make of it. A lot of people take research for credit, which means that the units that you're taking can go towards your degree and graduation requirements. And so most labs that I know have a system where you can take 1, 2, or 3 credits per semester. And 1 credit is usually 3 hours of work a week, 2 credits is usually 6, and then 3 credits is usually 9 hours of work a week. So you can kind of sign on to what you want to do as much as you want to take on. I personally am trying to get 2 degrees. I work in 2 research labs. I have a job. And it is manageable for me. It does take a lot of organization. I am on campus probably 13 hours a day. But it is manageable to get it all done.
All right, well, thank you all for that perspective. I hope, Valerie, that also helps answer your question about balancing all this also with being a student athlete. There are definitely options there. I'd like to take a moment to go back to a question. The first question we got from Quentin about freshmen doing their research projects. I want to mention something unique that's part of the Schmid and also the engineering school's curriculum, which is called the Grand Challenges Initiative, or as we call it, GCI. This is a 2-year program that every single science and engineering major participates in. It's a 2-year-long group project that is research. So at the end of that process, you will have original research that you completed with your group on a project that you came up with. And we have an info session all about the Grand Challenges Initiative next Friday. So I'm just going to put the details for that in the chat because it is a unique part about our curriculum here. And it's a way that everybody who comes to be a student here gets introduced to research and gets started in the process of research as soon as they enroll. So that's next Friday at 3 p.m. We hope you'll join us for that. And I think we probably just have time for one more question left. I'd like to talk about Maya's question here about how the smaller department sizes have contributed to your experience in the sciences at Chapman. So for this question, we could sort of broaden. We don't need to be talking just about research, but just generally, how has the small department size or class size affected your academic time here at Chapman?
So as I mentioned before, the physics department is actually really small. We're one of the smallest departments on campus. I think we only had 10 physics majors my freshman year, and that was like a record high for us. It's been great, honestly. You get to know all of the professors really well. Like I said before, they invited us to their Christmas party, which I thought was kind of crazy. And there's always like a physics mixer at the beginning of every semester. And since you get to know the professors so well, you get like an insider scoop on all of the opportunities you can get. You can get extra help from any professor. Like I've gone to my Professor Howell, the research instructor, and just asked him about some of my coursework in physics that I'm not understanding, and he's perfectly willing to help all the time. I even just emailed one of the professors, my mechanics professor, about something in math that talked about center of mass and how to calculate that and why I was super confused about it. And she emailed me and we had a whole chat about how it worked, and it was great.
I am not an environmental science major myself, but most of my friends are, and I've become really involved with all the activities that the major puts on, usually because there's free food and they always have really fun field trips. So that is one thing that's a little unique. I never thought I would be going on a field trip in college. But just this past Saturday, we got to go out tide pooling and looking for nudibranchs. There was another field trip a couple weeks ago that took people to a water treatment facility. So if people are interested in going to hydrology or water chemistry, that was a great field trip opportunity for them. We also do a camping trip every year, which is super fun. I found that being engaged in such a small department has really let me get to know both my peers. I think there are only 25 majors within my grade. And then also all of the professors. The professors come with us on most of the field trips, and they're out in the field with us when we do research or go look for slugs.
Yeah, I can touch on this. All professors are required to hold office hours every week. And I think that's pretty unique because I feel like at big schools, you don't usually get that like one-on-one attention. And at Chapman, that time is like meant for us to go in outside of class. They're there waiting for students to come in, ask questions, talk to them about class material. Maybe you don't understand a homework assignment, stuff like that. And it's super, super helpful. I think that's one of the only reasons why I passed organic chemistry too, is that I went to my professor's office hours constantly. And I it helped so much. And you do really form like genuine bonds with your professors. Dr. Gleinberg, it was first day of one of our classes, and she is so cool. She named off everyone's name by the end of the class without like looking at sheets or anything. It was very impressive. And so it goes to show that like the professors care about you, and if they see you falling behind, like they will reach out and they do notice. And it kind of holds you accountable in that aspect as well. And so I kind of want to strive and I want to get that good grade because I have that kind of relationship with my professor where if I see them walking through campus, like I'll go wave. I went bird watching with my old evolutionary professor. His name is Dr. Piper. I love him. I just went bird watching with him the other day with one of his other students because we kept in touch in that regard. And it's just it's very much Schmid as a community. And I think that it has only benefited from its size. I feel like if it was a bigger school, I would feel more like a statistic, and I don't like that. And so I really appreciate having that kind of one-on-one relationship where you can ask questions and they'll know your name and they know what you're struggling with and can help you directly in that regard.
I totally agree with everyone and what they've already said so far. I came from a private school in high school that was already really small too, so that was definitely something on my list when I was choosing Chapman. I liked the way that I could know my teachers and my teachers would know me, and so that's very much what kind of determined my choice. I think that is really prevalent. Um, Kind of as everyone else has said, like by the end of the first week of your semester, your teacher will probably already know who you are. I think even going into this next semester, I have to take a lab, and 50 minutes of the lab, like last part of that lab, I have to take another class, and they're both required for me to take. And so my research professor, who's also the chemistry like head, emailed the lab teacher for me first just to like see if it was even possible. And then she approved, and then he told me to email her again. And when I emailed her, she like fully even remembered. This was like a week ago, and I emailed her yesterday. And she completely remembered who I was, what my major is, like everything about me, and was so genuinely kind and was like, I'll extend all the dates for you for the labs. Like I need like if you want to be able to take this class for your minor, like go ahead. I want what you want. Like I want you to be successful. And I have a few friends back home that go to state schools, and I've kind of shared my experiences with them. And they've even told me that like it's the test review office hours or the TA whatever hours, and they've been there the whole semester and have talked to the teachers, and the teachers still couldn't even think about what their first name begins with or anything. So I definitely think you will 100%, even if you just show up to class every day and you don't go to any extra things, your teacher will know who you are and care about you and want to help you no matter what. So it's definitely a good aspect of Chapman, I will say.
Well, thank you all for your perspective on that. We're on the dot of 7. I would like to let everyone tuning in know about a few related events you might be interested in. We have a pre-med advising information session that is happening on Monday. So if you, like Bori, are thinking about medical school as a possible path for you after college, definitely tune into that. We have our dedicated pre-health advisor, Christine Crispin, who used to sit on the admissions board for the USC Medical School. So she's incredibly informed and a really great resource for all of our students who are considering a pre-med path. So I highly recommend that session. And then a more broad session, we have next Friday, our science and technology information session. So that's going to be sort of similar to this one, except for it's going to be with faculty. So all of our programs that are housed within Schmid, and if you click on the link, you'll see the names of those programs. If you're interested in them, come join us. All of the faculty or a faculty member from every program will be there, and there will be breakout rooms so that if you have a question that didn't get answered today, you can ask it to a professor or anything that's kind of academic or coursework or research related. They will be really great resources. So I hope to see a lot of you next Friday. I've already plugged our Instagram. Highly recommend that you follow us there. We also have a TikTok. Annalisa's lab, the Seeker Lab, also has a TikTok, which is even more famous and popular than the Schmid College account. So if you want to go poking around on TikTok to find that, they did have a TikTok that got 10 million views. So there's the username. Yes, you can go check that out. Yeah, that's, I guess, everything I want to plug. Thank you to our students for your time. I so appreciate you sharing your perspective with us. And thank you everyone who tuned in, whether it was 5 a.m. when you joined us or 6 p.m. I really appreciate you taking your time to learn more about research here at Chapman. So I hope you all have a good rest of your evening. And I hope to see you at future Discover Chapman events over the next few weeks. Bye.